Hello, and welcome back to another episode of International Immersion, a podcast where we seek to explore the world, learning about vast cultures, people, places, and much, much more. So for today's episode, I have a unique idea that I wanted to put into practice, as I have one of my old friends from my time in China here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about each other, how we met, what experiences we had, and how we are progressing in life and what we want to do and how our time abroad and time together has changed us. So, Andy, it's great to have you here today, and it's good to catch up again.
Oh, thank you very much, Sean, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy. I'm from Argentina, Buenos Aires, the city. I met Sean in China 2 years ago when we were studying at Zhejiang University, and it was quite an experience, that one. I always look back to it with a lot of fond memories.
Exactly. It's hard to believe it's already been 2 years.
Honestly, yes, because it feels, in a way, some memories, I have them so vivid in my mind that I feel that it really happened like earlier this year. But it's been 2 years. 2 years, it's just incredible.
No, I agree 100%. Some of the memories, of our classes, places we went, and stuff we did, they seem like they happened just the other day. And whereas other ones, you can tell, that was 2 years ago. But at the end of the day, time just continues to fly on by.
You know that sometimes whenever I'm out, this is actually a real thing, what I'm gonna say. Sometimes whenever I'm eating like Chinese food, and it's incredible, the capacity of humans to have like memory even with taste. And then I would try like something that would resemble something we have ate while we were there, and I don't know, it just brings me like nice. Well, I wouldn't say the best ones, but like some nice memories, or when we would like eat not the Western food, but the Chinese food. They were those are good times.
Yes, they were. A lot of fun, a lot of intrigue, a lot of like what's going on, a lot of mystery. But at the end of the day, it was quite an experience. Yeah. So Andy, we've talked about this before, but for you, what road led you to study in China for the 1 year you were there?
So, I think it's a great question because it has a really long story. It all began. I can go. Do you want me to go long story or short story?
Whichever you want, man. I think our audience will be interested in just kind of learning about, how you got there. We've already discussed how I got there, but I think it's just cool to learn about how each person figures out their path.
So long story. Let's go long story. So when I began learning Chinese, it all began like when you began learning Chinese, and that was for me in high school. That was 2012. Fell in love with the language. Fascinating. I think the fact that my country is located in what could be geographically the complete opposite from China was always like something very appealing. And it's. Whenever I think about China, it's like this very poetic view of having like a temple, like a Buddhist temple in the mountains, and you see all like that scene with the mist. That's how I picture China, and that's how I pictured it back then too. So it hasn't changed much. I've been in love with the country, and when I had my first chance to visit China, that was in 2014. That feeling was reinforced even further. But the reason why I visited China in the first place in 2014 was because the Chinese embassy in Argentina, so do many Chinese embassies around the world, they organize a Chinese language competition that's called Chinese Bridge. In Chinese, it would be Hanyu And it's organized for secondary school students. It's organized for university students. And you essentially, it's a three-part competition where you give a speech, you answer questions related to Chinese culture and history, and you demonstrate a talent. It could be playing the piano, performing arts, it could be anything. And all of this, the only condition is, well, it's all in Chinese, so you are speaking and doing everything in Chinese. And I was lucky enough in 2014 to win the competition in my country, so I went ahead to China to like represent Argentina. And essentially, when you're there, you compete against people from all around the world that have won in their respective countries. Well, and like we'll see people from Mongolia, see people from Japan, which of course they speak tremendously good Chinese. Folks from the US, like they spoke really good. And actually, myself, I was 2014. I just had 3 years of Chinese learning experience, so I couldn't do very well. I did quite well in the competition, but not as well as I would have wanted to. And actually, folks from Mongolia, they won the overall championship. Nonetheless, because you go there, they give you this scholarship that is provided by Hanban and the Confucius Institute, which are the guys in China that organize this contest. And that is a scholarship where you can choose any university you want from China and do a semester study. So that's how I got my scholarship to go to China. But the story doesn't really end there, why I went to China, because, so that's 2014. 2 years afterwards, I participated again. I was still in high school for the same competition. I had by then 4 or 5 years of Chinese learning experience, and I did much better. So that one time, me and my friend who were like representing Argentina, we made it to the top 10 of the world, which was like a dream come true. In fact, I think historically the best Argentina has ever done in this competition.
That's something to be proud of. That's something to be very proud of.
I have like a small trophy that is like upstairs. I don't know. I think it was beautiful. Just seeing, I could celebrate alongside the Mongolian dude who would always win. Yeah, but like that time they give you the same scholarship just for participating. But because you made it to the top 10, they would also cover your like airline fees. You know, like the travel expense, which is a pretty sweet deal, right? Because
for sure,
it's so far away from China that it's good that they would cover that too.
I mean, anytime you have airfare, the cost of whatever program you're doing, and all your expenses paid. I mean, that's an awesome deal.
Yeah. So then I finished high school in December of 2017, and then by March of 2018, I was off to China, which I must say you apply through a website. It's a very shady website. I live it all. You don't get much information. And if it hadn't been for my Chinese teacher in Argentina, I wouldn't. I mean, like, you get like almost zero contact from the folks at the university you applied to. So the actual admission letter, you get it so I applied in 2017, like in, I don't know, like May. And I got like the admission decision relatively early. And all of the immigration papers, I got them literally 3 weeks before actually traveling to China.
Oh, that's cutting it close, especially because now you have to get you have to go get your visa and everything.
Thankfully the embassy knew about this, so they just issued the visa right away. And like the airplane ticket was also booked like 2 weeks before the flight happened. So this was kind of, I knew that like the scholarship would happen in March. It would begin in March, but like the time preceding that date, I just knew nothing. So
that really reminds me of when I was applying for graduate school in China. The website that I used to apply, it wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but it wasn't the best. And when I was doing outreach to learn more about it, it was usually at least 2 weeks plus between any reply from them. So it was really drawn out. I mean, luckily I got everything in early, and then because I applied for grad school in 2014 when I finished my undergrad, and I applied actually towards the end of 2013 when I was a senior in college, and then I got my admission letter in June of 2014, and then I went that summer in July, got my visa, and then I flew out to start my master's program at that Zhejiang University in September of 2014. So, but yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like it was great overall, but there definitely could be a little more
organization there,
I mean, they had an orientation and everything for us, but it was definitely kind of a rough first few weeks because it was so much that was going on. There, and it's just difficult because there's so much you had to do. Some of the stuff, and in my case, I hadn't really studied Chinese before that. My Chinese is much better now, but at the time, I didn't know that much. So some stuff was in English, no problem. But all of our classes and the system we had to use to pick our courses was all in Chinese. They had not created an English version yet.
You had to also pick your... Wow. I cannot imagine how hard it was.
Yeah, so thank God for a couple of my Chinese classmates that I met. They saved my life that first semester. And
did you pick your classes before the semester began?
No, well, we arrived about almost 3 weeks before the classes began because it took a.
All right, that's good.
So we had just about under 3 weeks to get everything settled in. We got moved into our dorms. We got our student ID. We had to switch our visa to a residence permit now that we were in the country, and we had to renew that every year. So. And
you were at Zhejiang, right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, because Zhejiang University, for viewers, they have several campuses. And when we were studying Chinese, we were at Yichuan campus, which is closer to West Lake, which is the famous lake in Hangzhou.
The best campus, though. We agree that. The best one. Have you been to the one that is close to the river?
Zhejiang, yeah.
That's a good.
That one's beautiful. It's where the law school is. It's on the river. It's absolutely beautiful. But I would say. From visiting all three and having lived on two of them, Zhejiang is the most modern. It's the biggest, so I did like that. But Yichuan's location was the best. So and that was. So that's my opinion there. But yeah, I definitely think that there could be definitely more done for the incoming international students. At the time when we were there. Once we were settled in, we got our courses selected, and we were kind of given we had a routine. Then it was smooth sailing, but it was quite rough at first. First weekend I actually got sick, and that was really unfortunate. And I was like, maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe I should go back home. And like you, I applied, and I had a good GPA, and I had done a bunch of stuff. So they gave me a good scholarship. So I had my tuition, fees, and room and board covered. Had to pay for airfare, but still, it was a drop in the bucket compared to the cost that would add if I didn't. But it was a great opportunity. But that. Towards the end of that first week, I'm thinking, oh, this is great, but we haven't got any assistance yet, and my bank card wasn't working at the time.
Now that it's not that we're asking for much, but just hey, how are you doing? And I'm checking on you, what I mean? It's not such a hard thing to do.
Well,
but I guess.
I just remember me and my roommate. My roommate was from Ohio State University. He was doing a dual master's. He was doing a year in China as part of his master's program. And we were talking both about, man, where's the support? Nothing's happening. We're supposed to get our stipend money. It took them almost a month to get it. And my bank told me, oh, your card and your stuff will work fine in China. I get there, it didn't work. So thank God I brought cash. I had enough cash to get me through that first 3 weeks, but it was I was cutting it quite close.
They didn't give you the Bank of China card yet?
They did, but they didn't fund it for almost a month. So that was one of the things they would fund. They would open your account so you can receive your stipend money or scholarship money, and you had to initially fund it with some of your own money that you converted. So I just put 10 RMB in because I had to make what I had count. But once we did get the first stipend, they combined September and October together. So we got. Oh, so that was nice.
You feel powerful. I remember.
Yeah, it was nice watching my account go from 10 RMB to 4,400 because the stipend amount it was I think 1,700 Chinese yuan at the time. Not much, but it was still quite comfortable as a student. And then getting that. So that once we had that and I had access to funds, my classes were all set up. I could breathe easy, and then from then on, it just got progressively better.
Yeah, that's wow. That's really cool. I remember also for me that they took a while to get the credit card activated. But it's a lot of money. 2,000. I think how much was your stipend monthly? 2,000 yuan, right?
It was 1,700, but then in our second semester, it was May of 2015. It went up to 3,000.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It was 2,500 as a 2,500, and then later it went to 3,000.
Isn't it like you can buy a lot of stuff like with that amount of money?
And actually, because once it got to the 3,000 mark at the time, that was just under $500, because then in 15 the yuan got devalued when they had that financial issue. So it was around $487 if I remember correctly, given at the time the exchange rate, and then it dropped down closer to 450ish. But still, it was plenty to live on as long as you weren't going partying or clubbing. If you kept a balanced lifestyle and habits, I would save at least 1/3 of that every month.
That was cool. Yeah, my main expense. What was your main expense there? Where did most of your money go to? When you were there?
I would say, initially most of it went to food, because the entire time I was a graduate student, and then later when we met as a Chinese language learning students, or however you want to call that, I never really cooked once, because our dormitory was huge. There were like 80 plus students on each floor divided amongst the rooms, and they only had 2 kitchens. So I'm like, screw this.
Like community kitchens.
Exactly. And trying to find the time when it was free, and not to mention you have to go buy the ingredients and come back. It was actually cheaper and so much more convenient to actually just buy.
You don't need to clean anything.
Exactly. You just eat and take the trash out.
No, I remember that. Like this. Obviously, Chinese food is very different from the food we are used to.
For sure.
We're raised differently, and like in my time preceding traveling to China, that extended period of time for the language program, I actually did a cooking class, or I don't know how you would call it, like a seminar, right? You go for 2 months, twice a week, and you learn how to cook dishes, because I said, oh God, I will definitely need to learn how to cook some of my stuff while I'm there.
Exactly.
But it turns out no kitchen in my place.
Oh no.
So yeah, I just went to even in China, I like to consider myself like an adventurer, that I want to try new stuff. But I was the complete opposite. I just stuck to rice and the least spicy stuff. And whenever I would see a Western thing, I would do McDonald's once a week. The healthiest of lifestyles was that one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Andy. When I was there, I'm not going to spend my time just eating non-Chinese food, because I'm in China. I want to try the local cuisine. I want to explore. I want to, push myself a little bit, put myself in situations where I have to use my Chinese, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
But it's just, I've never been a huge fan of cooking, but, I do enjoy it, especially if it's something unique, but I just never really had a good opportunity to do it because the conditions and the circumstances. Now, later on when I met my girlfriend, then I could help her do some of her cooking, and I got to see how she prepared a lot of basic Chinese meals, which were absolutely delicious and very easy to make. And I'm like, ooh, that's actually pretty good. So I've actually taken a few pages from her cookbook, and
absolutely. Yeah, you get some recommendations. Yeah. I was going to ask you, the language program, right? Was it did you do a semester before, or was it when we were in the same class? Was it your first semester?
Because I did it for 1 full year. I did it fall semester of 2017 and then spring semester 2018. So, yeah, and because we were together spring semester of 18. Because
spring is always the better semester.
I must say, of the 2 semesters, I enjoyed spring the most. Yes.
Well, yeah, and did any of the classmates did you share the same class?
No, I mean, there was a decent number of foreign students all learning Chinese, and I would see some of them later on, but I did not share none. I had none of the same group that crossed over into the class I was in the second semester. So, I mean, it was a little frustrating, but you meet new people, hence that's how we met.
Yeah, absolutely, that's true, man. Yeah, I was looking at some pictures. I mean, it's incredible, right? Sometimes when you're there, you take things for granted. So it's not that you go there and you take a picture of the class, right? But towards the end of the program, I realized, I should definitely take a picture of folks in the class and stuff. So I have very few, but I have a few. And I've seen pictures of like you in class and like some of our classmates. So I was gonna ask you like, what are some memories that come up to mind, like from our times in the class?
Oh, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, we had speaking class, listening class.
You remember the listening teacher?
Yes,
right? She was so dope. I love.
Yeah,
her.
she was awesome. We even got to watch that movie towards the end of the semester, which was hilarious.
Although I have like the song of that movie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was like Lost in Thailand. It was
Thailand, yes.
It was hilarious.
It was strongly recommend the movie. Really good.
It's kind of like like a vacation that goes wrong, like the Hangover, the film The Hangover, but like a Chinese version of it. It was great.
It had like the Chinese touch. There's definitely some martial arts in it.
Oh yeah, but that was fun. But yeah, I remember our listening teacher. She was pretty cool. Really spontaneous, and I always enjoyed her classes.
And then fun fact before I forget, that I think, because I haven't seen her, but the speaking teacher, you remember the speaking teacher?
Oh yeah, I remember her.
It was Ifong or something like that. She wanted to do her graduate studies in the U.S. And she was admitted, or actually she is right now, doing her GSC in like the same university I am right now. But and she sent me an email earlier on the fall last year to meet up, and I answered like the email. Back. So I wanted like really to see her. And then one of the PhD students I work with in my lab, he's also from China, and I tell him, hey, do you know like this like Chinese student? She's at the GSC school, like Graduate School of Education, and she is from Wenzhou. You know, like Wenzhou,
Wenzhou.
On the coast of Zhejiang. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I remember from her. She was from Wenzhou. And he actually said, oh yeah, I do remember someone, and I don't, you remember like the English name? I'm not sure about what her English name was.
It's terrible, but I can't remember it offhand either. I'm sure it may come to me, but I just can't think of it right now.
Eventually, like, it will come back to us, but like, yeah, and he goes like, yeah, I think I know her. Yeah, so first thing I'm going to do once I'm back on campus, at some point, I guess, perhaps next year, I'll see if I can find her.
Well,
we should actually bring her here. If we could like get her. You know what? I'm gonna shoot her an email. I'm gonna tell her I was speaking to you.
Hey, why not? Why not? Reconnect. You never know what's new in people's lives. So.
Right. Yeah, but since we were speaking about like the speaking teacher, I remember once we did like a Model UN type of thing.
Yes, I remember that too, when we all had the different countries and we had to try to use our speaking skills to talk about the current political issues and everything, and that was hilarious.
That was cool. Were you the U.S.? Were you?
Yeah, I think I was the only American student in that one class. So, yeah, and then with Trump being president, oh my God, and there was so much like, why are you guys doing this? Why is this happening? And I'm just like, oh, okay, how do I?
You can't really answer all the questions.
No, of course not. I just I've studied political science, so I tried to use my Chinese in the most politically contextual form I could.
Then we had, I think we haven't spoken about like the climax of our education there, which is like the grammar teacher there. She was I think she was amazing.
Yeah.
Spectacular teacher, but very strict.
Yes, I mean I learned so much vocabulary from that class. I mean it was rough. I remember I think me, you, and some of the other classmates, we would go to cafes after and study, and we'd be there hours trying to do the homework, and I mean, it was rough.
Homework's gone.
Yeah, I mean, 3-4 hours plus homework a day. I mean, I had some of that in my undergrad, but it wasn't like that really just, learning a language is different than other things. It's just, you have to hit hard every day, and at some points, it was cool, but some days I'm just like, I am so burnt out.
I'm like, as I'm talking with you, I'm just flashbacking, as if I was there, so mentally, like walking towards, there was like this cafe next to the supermarket. I don't know if you remember the supermarket that was in front of
the north gate of Yichuan.
Yes, in YouTube.
That was, I think, Cafe Panini. That's where I went all the time.
I think so, yeah.
Because they had that really good special for 51. You could get you could get like a chahu, a big pot of tea with unlimited refills. So I just do that, drink tea, and then study.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And those are, yeah, I think like being in class. Well, I didn't. What did you enjoy more, like being in class or the time after class, where you would be like by yourself?
Both were fun. I mean, class was good because it gave you the structure and material to learn and to work with. But I almost enjoyed learning outside of class. Because I could then try to use it in different ways. And I also found it was interesting because we would learn a lot of this, but when I would talk to Chinese people, they would say, "Oh, that's right," but when you speak, we actually prefer to say it this way, or this is the more common trend. So there was definitely a little bit of that, like you're learning kind of more a puritanical form of it, but it's not always the same to how people actually use it. Because I always have people say, "Oh, that's right," but we don't say that when we talk. We say this, and I'm like, "Oh, exactly." So. Yeah, and you can definitely see kind of the Chinese mentality in teaching. It's very just like you hit it hard, you memorize, you do it. I'd say it's effective, but it can be rather grueling.
I totally agree with that. But I guess it's like nice to be exposed to like different educational methods because
Exactly.
You were raised with one. In college, you might have used another one, and then you do this one program where this is different, but it might be effective because, I mean, honestly, I don't think I remember much from the. I mean, I still do Chinese, but I cannot quote you like a lesson from that one time. Perhaps when we learn to use like the ba.
Oh yeah.
Or ba page. I don't know like how to use it.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of that, like I still have the books. I remember we were just talking the other day, and when we first caught up and decided to do this. I still have a lot of books, and I go through them, and I remember a lot of the vocabulary, but I found that being back in the U.S., and especially being in the Midwest, there's really no one around who speaks Chinese. So while I still try to practice, I've definitely lost a lot, and I'm quite sad about that, especially with my reading and writing, because it's really hard for me to find time for that now that I'm working full-time. But speaking has been a little easier because I have traveled for work back to China, and my girlfriend, so I can talk to her. So my speaking has stayed pretty on par, but I'm definitely looking for more opportunities to keep it up.
Right? Like reading, just like perhaps writing is the hardest, but like reading.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's amazing because I remember we had our reading class, the final exam. I was kind of mortified. Oh my God, we got to read these huge essays. But it was actually kind of amazing because I would actually, even though there were so many characters I didn't know, I still kind of got the main point, and I'm like, wow, okay, I don't know every detail, but I get the context of this, and it's really like gratifying to know, wow, I actually could, do that, and I got a decent number of answers right. So it's like, wow.
What was surprising for me that this is just like a personal note, but so I was lucky enough to also take Chinese like in college in the U.S. like a Chinese class. And I felt like Chinese in China was like way better than Chinese in the just Chinese learning, like Chinese courses, because in China was like way more rigorous. Like you would actually.
Oh, for sure.
Like in the U.S., they take a more modern approach, at least in my college, and they just make you type everything in pinyin, and you would just select the corresponding character from there. So
yeah.
I appreciate the fact that I was able to learn Chinese the old-fashioned way. That's like, I don't know, it's just more effective to learning how to write.
Yeah, because at my old university, they did offer Chinese courses, and I didn't actually take them at the time because going to China was more of kind of my senior year, change of events thing. So I didn't really plan for it as much as you did because it was more of a recent development for me. But I just remember, talking to some friends who took the class, and they would spend, for Chinese 101, they wouldn't even hit characters for at least a month. They would do pinyin for quite a while. They still learned a lot, but it was much more gradual. It was very concise. They learned very well, but it was much slower. Because I remember every day, new vocab list, new section.
Well, I guess, in my opinion, you would say, like, from a U.S. point of view, right, if you're going to learn Chinese, you'll probably use, the only situation where you would actually need to write in Chinese would be you need to, shoot an email to someone in China, or, you need to do business, right? but there's no like a specific need to write in paper.
Exactly. It'd be all on the computer. It's all
on the computer. So yeah, it's a more modern approach towards learning Chinese, which now that you see it like that, makes sense.
And honestly, and one thing I think a lot of people, if they learn Chinese, if you're using a phone or a computer, the most important thing initially is the pinyin, because that's you have to know the pinyin to type out the character, and then you will select the character to use, and then it will turn into characters.
It's important for you to recognize
which
character is the one.
Exactly. So more than anything, I think and that's one thing I've noticed is that I'm still pretty good at recognizing characters. It's just that writing them, it's like, oh, that's when it's harder to remember if you don't keep consistently at it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's sad in the sense that most of the Chinese I remember by heart how to write down is probably the first Chinese you were exposed to in your life, which is like perhaps a couple of hundred characters. Then the rest is just like, imagine I need to do like a quick quiz in the morning, so I'll just remember them, and then I can do that quiz, and then suddenly my mind will be occupied by something else the minute after I'm done.
Oh, I know, and and we all have our own way of learning it. We may learn, we all may be taught the same way, but we all have our different ways of how we internalize it and then apply it. So that's we can see that across our classmates and everything. So. It was a cool time, strenuous, interesting, but overall it was, very memorable. And then, not to mention outside of the classroom, we went out and did stuff together. We went out for dinner several times, explored.
We went for bowling. Do you remember that time?
Yeah, yes, I remember that.
Bowling was fine. That was it's interesting. I don't know. Being able to say that you played bowling in China.
Yeah. I'll never forget that one day. It was, I think we had just finished our semester, so it was, we finished finals and everything, and we decided to go for that long hike across Westlake. And I remember, and this is so interesting, and if you won't really experience this unless you go to China. And I remember we're sitting on this causeway on the Westlake, just talking, and these people just come and take a picture to us, and then we both look at them like, do you want a picture in Chinese? And they were like, whoa!
Holy macaroni.
Yeah. I remember telling them in Chinese, I'm like, guys, if you want to take a picture, just ask. Don't just come and take a picture. I mean, I didn't tell them it was rude, but I said, just please ask. And they were just, oh my God.
One woman.
Yeah.
That was epic. And then, I'm thinking, I was going to ask you, you've been definitely in Hangzhou for a longer time than I have been there. And what is your favorite place there? What are some of the most, if somebody wanted to visit Hangzhou, what are some some of your special places, some places that are not listed on the web that you really like?
In having spent almost 4 years in Hangzhou, both as a graduate student and then later as a language student, there are a lot of places I found, but the entire Westlake area is a treasure. I mean, the pagodas, the temples, the tea groves, the gardens, the inlets, they're all amazing. So I would recommend any place on there. But Lingyan Temple, which is a huge Buddhist temple complex, that is an amazing place.
All of that area is pretty
that whole area is nice. The tea groves are amazing. And then I would recommend the hiking paths around in the Westlake area, which is these huge forest-covered hills, and they have these terraced tea farms on them. You can go hiking there for hours, and that was amazing.
How is the pagoda called? The one that was on the north, the northern mountain?
Oh, Baochu Ta. Baochu Pagoda, and then the one on the south side was Leifang Ta, or Leifang Pagoda. Because Baochu Pagoda, you cannot go up. It's just a solid structure, where Leifang, on the south side, you can actually go to the top. But they're both really beautiful. And then the eastern side of Westlake, that's where the city is, or where part of the city meets the lake. That's a pretty cool area. There are lots of tea shops, places, and then my favorite place to go shopping was Hefengjie, the street on the
that was on the eastern side of the lake.
Exactly. You keep going down the east side of the lake, and then you go into the city. It's more of a historical area. It's more the original area of the city back when it was the capital of the Southern Song Dynasty in the 1200s. And then you can get a lot of cool stuff there. It's more old style. And there was one place, it was a famous Chinese medicine dispensary. You could get all kinds of cool stuff. They had like this Chinese herbal tea that's good for you. You could get, it was free. And then there was all kinds of stuff you could buy. But there were so many cool shops there. I bought several tea sets and clothing, pajamas, casual attire that I have now here in the U.S. It was just a really cool place. And granted, and I love to go there, especially later on with my girlfriend, because you can go there and you can practice your Chinese, and you can try to get a good deal, and barter with them. And that was always fun.
You need to bargain.
Yeah, you have to bargain. You have to bargain. And it's always fun when you're like, when they give you a price, are you joking? Like, I know it's not this expensive, and you sold it to this other Chinese guy for half this price.
I guess like in Hangzhou, you rarely see foreigners. I mean, it's definitely an international city, but I would say most of the foreigners you would find them at the universities where we work.
Yes, for sure.
But, like, in the streets, I mean, you don't really see them, or they're very sparse out, or just around the lake. So, yeah, I guess they would be very impressed when they see like someone that is never not Chinese. And
there's definitely by the Westlake area, especially on the east side of the Westlake area, you'll see more foreigners there because that's one of the main tourist areas. So you'll see tour groups go through there, and I did find the longer I was in Hangzhou, the more tourists I did see. So it was becoming, so I could see it was becoming a little more popular because when I first was there, I would never see tour groups of foreigners, but then later on I saw some tour groups of foreigners. Like, oh my goodness, I haven't seen that before. But yeah, but if you go away from like the tourist areas, the downtown areas, you go out more into further out from the city center. There are very few foreigners, and that's where.
Well, what's like? I don't know. Like in my case, one of the most incredible places that like I bet almost no one visited is like the fake Paris.
Yes. Actually,
the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, I actually never visited there. I mean, I know of people who went there, but I never actually went there. But yeah, that's a pretty unique area because you're like, oh my gosh, it's in France. Like, no, it's in Hangzhou.
It was really well made. It feels like you're actually it feels like you were in Paris there, and you got like architecture is basically the same. And they definitely do not speak French there, but it still gets if you close your eyes, it could be like as if you were in France.
Yeah,
that was a nice Saturday escape for me, like just cycling all the way there.
And that's another thing I've noticed is that I mean, kind of comparing the U.S. Where I'm at in the U.S. to China is that while it's much more laid back here where I'm back in the U.S., it was just there was always something you could do in Hangzhou because it was such a big city.
There was always something you could do.
Yeah,
at least I think now if I was there or if I was doing, I mean, this is a great question I'm going to ask you in a second, but like let me just tell you like my answer first. Like if I was back in Hangzhou reliving these, in your case 4 years, in my case just a semester, what is the sort of stuff that you would do, like that you would want to do, that you would do differently? You know what I mean?
I would say, to begin with, I would have done the Chinese language program first and then my master's degree. But at the time, it wasn't available, and so that's just how it ended up, playing out. But that's what I'd probably want to do at that time because my Chinese got pretty good by the time I left, and I'm like, oh, I'm leaving. So I wish I could have, switched that around. But I definitely would have wanted to do that. I definitely would have wanted to travel more places. I traveled a lot. I went to 9 provinces during that time with friends and stuff, so I got to travel a lot. But I wish I would have traveled more, and I wish I would have gone out more. I mean, don't get me wrong, I went out all the time, but now thinking about it, I could have done more.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, in my case, I love cycling, right? And I've done one of the most epic bike rides I've done in my life is going all the way from Philadelphia to New York in a single day. And that is
impressive, very impressive.
I mean, it's a reasonable bike ride. And like when you think about it, right, the distance from Hangzhou to Shanghai, it's not that much. They're not that far apart from each other.
I mean, it's about 3 hours by bus, 45 minutes by the fast train.
So like, I was thinking like one thing I would love to do is just exploring every town in between those two cities, and then like a bike ride like that.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, it's a little. I would say when you get out of the cities, it's a little harder to get around for us, especially for foreigners. But You definitely can do a lot of that in China.
But he had like the how was like the app called? I think it was like the one where you had like the Chinese Google Maps.
Oh, Baidu is the big search engine. I think.
Baidu. Yes. Yeah. You have like 4G, and you have Baidu. Oh, you're done. Like you can, they would literally find you like a bike path, and yeah, you could. I mean, my limitation was that we were both limited in funding, right? So it's not that I could, and they don't really have Airbnbs in China, so it's not that I could like just knock in someone's room and like house and say, "Oh, could you host me?"
Yeah,
which would be epic if that was the case. I guess I should try it.
When also one thing I found that was really important and allowed me to do a lot more than I could on my own was making the friends I did and us traveling together, because they opened a lot of doors that I couldn't have done as a foreigner just because of the language barrier, places, a wide range of reasons. But that was instrumental. And likewise, one of my friends who we went out to West China, we went all the way out to Gansu province in a place called
Gansu province. Wait, hold on a second. I want to listen more about that. I'm going to go to Gansu province.
Yeah, it was a long trip, and I would love to do a whole episode on this trip because it was absolutely amazing. We started in Xi'an, and we worked our way all the way out to Dunhuang, which is
do you go in a car, in a train, in a plane?
A combination. So then basically we flew to Xi'an, then we took a train to Huashan, which is a really big mountain. We climbed that. We spent 2 days climbing that. One day going up and back, and then spent the night, and then went back to Xi'an the next day. We spent another 2 days in Xi'an. Went to the Terracotta Army. Went to the old city, the Muslim Quarter. A lot of cool food and places. Then we took a overnight train, and oh my god, that was one interesting experience, to Xining in Qinghai province.
Xining is a... which province is it?
Qinghai.
Qinghai.
Yeah.
You went to Qinghai province.
So we took this overnight train, and then we hired a driver, and then he took us all the way to the Qinghai Lake, and we spent a night there, and then we drove into Gansu province, stayed at a small town, and then we worked our way out all the way to Dunhuang, which is an old Han Dynasty Silk Road caravan town. And we saw parts of the Great Wall there, and we saw these amazing, called Mogao grottos, that were built in the Han Dynasty around, between 100 to 100 BC to 100 AD, in intermits that period. And then we worked our way back to Langzhou in Gansu, and then flew back to Hangzhou. It was about almost 3 weeks, but it was a cool trip.
I think that is a hell of a journey.
And what's amazing is that I saved for the trip, but the entire trip I probably spent no more than $600.
Really?
Because my Chinese friends put it together, so we stayed in all the Chinese places. We didn't stay in any foreign catering places. And my one friend, he is a whiz when it comes to negotiating. So, but yeah.
I consider myself that I knew. That compared to what I know about China, it's like a lot. I felt like my biggest trip, like in our time in China, I just went to Guilin, which I felt like tremendously proud about having done that trip, because it was something that it's like that one spiritual trip that I had to do, because Guilin is beautiful.
Oh no, I've heard so much about Guilin. Unfortunately, I did not have the chance to go there, but I've heard so many positive things about it.
Like Qinghai and Gansu province, that is amazing.
And I will say, out there, as a foreigner, you get a lot of stares because there are not many out there. I remember one day in Dunhuang, we were walking back from one thing, head back to our hotel, and we were walking through the town, and school got out. Literally, all these students were walking, toward us, and literally they parted like the Red Sea, just staring at me, because I'm like, hi guys, I'm just a person here too.
I'm too sad that since you were in that part of China, you didn't instead of driving back to Lanzhou, you could drive to Xinjiang,
we didn't go to Xinjiang because it's more difficult to travel out there for a wide range of reasons.
For a wide range of reasons we cannot discuss right now.
Well, we could, but it would take way too long, and I don't want to get involved in that.
Wow. What other places have you been like this unique in China?
Well, that was my big that was my big trip. I've also been to Anhui. I climbed Huangshan or Yellow Mountain. I've been to Jiangsu, Jingdezhen, which is a famous place for Chinese porcelain. Let's see here. I went to Xiamen in Fujian. That was really cool. And then I also did a 2.5-week trip all across Taiwan.
Oh, you did? Wait, and you come... Well, no, I shouldn't...
Yeah, that's a slippery slope right there. But it was a nice time. We started off in Keelung, worked our way down the east coast and back up the west side to Taipei, and it was a cool trip.
Wow.
So,
but did you fly out from Hangzhou to?
We flew from Hangzhou to Xiamen. We spent 3 days in Xiamen, and then we explored some cool places there. And then we took a cruise. We took literally a transport ship. Not really a cruise ship, but just kind of more of a pseudo.
Like a ferry.
I'd say a seafaring ferry from Xiamen to Keelung, and then we took.
Wait, like that trip, you were by yourself, or
I was with two of my Chinese friends.
And what did they think about Taiwan?
They liked it, and one of them had a friend in Taiwan, so we had a contact in one place. We met up with, that was nice. But I just remember going through immigration, and I remember I was the only foreigner on this ferry. I remember. I was actually the first in line. I go through the immigration, look at my passport, look at me, stamp me, and I'm done. My poor Chinese friends, they had to have their passport, they had to have a special booklet, they had to have a folder of documents. It took them each like a good 5-10 minutes to get through, and I remember I went through and I looked back and they were just staring at me like, "You're so lucky." And I'm like, whoa!
Well, but I guess it's the same for Taiwanese folks who want to visit China.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the airport there's a special place that the Taiwanese have to go, as well.
Yeah, it's basically like us, like when you're coming from Hong Kong, Macau, or Taiwan, like those folks are considered most like kind of international.
Yeah, there's exactly, to varying degrees, but yeah, that's
at least Hong Kong until 2047.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I was just reading today in the New York Times. They said that I believe. They might be passed, like the government might be passed, like the central government of Beijing might be.
Yep, I saw that today too. Some new security laws, or security-related laws.
Interesting stuff. Like coronavirus has provided a platform for the Chinese government to implement a couple of policies in Hong Kong.
And this is a topic for a whole other video, but I've definitely seen kind of a progression or a shift of a shift in many across a wide range of factors from the 4 years I was there. It was definitely a little more open when I was first there, and then later on, it just the mood just started to change a little bit, and that was a little unfortunate. But it is what it is, and I can only hope that things will get better, not worse. Because there's always ups and downs with everything. So, but I
don't know. I guess one thing that I keep on reminding myself is that we are fortunate in the sense that. Like both of us, hopefully, we will able to live for until 2090, and like that's I feel that there's gonna be fingers crossed, but there's gonna be so much interesting stuff happening all around the world. But at least until then, we will the fact I wasn't able to see the Hong Kong handover because I wasn't born yet. But I wish to be able to see that event, what happens in 2047. So I'm actually
that will be very interesting.
I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to because for our dear viewers, I don't want to provide any commentary about the situation. But what I would say is that I think we're fortunate that we can basically we're the protagonists of history.
No, I definitely agree with you. I mean, we're definitely living through one of the most interesting times in history. I mean, the 20th century and now our current century, so much has changed and so much has transpired.
No, I agree with that. Go ahead.
No, and I'm just thinking it's just amazing. We've had this experience. I'm from the U.S., you're from Argentina, and we meet in China of all places, and now. We were there. I was there for a year in the program. You were there a semester, and then now 2 years later, we're still in communication, talking back about this. Having done the same things or done different things. At the end of the day, we both taken a lot away from this, and I definitely am thankful for the opportunity because so few people get to leave their own countries, and I think that's quite a shame.
That is very true. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask you. I think I don't know. I have this memory, but it might be false. I'm not sure. That sometimes I think I did drive our grammar teacher a little bit mad at times when I did like sound. Is that correct? Because perhaps you have better memory than I did.
Well, I remember. Well, Andy, I remember this. I mean, I remember you were one of the biggest question answers in the class, and I have noticed this that like, and this is kind of me like in my courses, from undergrad in the U.S. in high school, we are taught to ask questions. We're taught to do this. Whereas when I was doing my grad program, me and the other foreign students, we were like that. But the Chinese students, they would never really do that unless they were asked to do that. So I think that there's definitely a little bit of a cultural or societal difference there in how we're just how we're educated in a way. So I do think that for some Chinese that could be a little a hindrance because, or it could be a little just different because that's not that common. Because I remember when it comes to questions at Q&A, my classes as a grad student, me and the other international students, we talked so much more, and we would challenge the professor. We would counter argue and everything. And the Chinese students would really never dare to do that. But that's not because we didn't agree with them or just whatever. It's just we wanted to prove our points or support what we were thinking with evidence, and vice versa.
Yeah, those were some fun times.
Exactly.
No, yes, go ahead.
And just looking back, it was there's so much to internalize. You could write volumes about what you've done, even in a semester or in years.
Absolutely. I do remember once being at the West Lake, and like taking a video, like a voice note, just like me speaking, like for like 5-10 minutes, on what I felt about China, and I haven't heard them since that time. And I'm afraid I just don't want to hear them. I'll just save them for a longer time. But like they're in my phone, they're kept in there. It's I think 3 voice notes, 2 years old that I haven't heard. And I wonder what is the sort of stuff I say there.
No, I still have a lot of my photos on my phone from that time, just because it's cool sometimes to reminisce. You're like, oh, I did that, or pictures of people I met. Specific memories of things I did with certain people. It all kind of keeps it together, and it kind of keeps that memory more fresh in your mind. And I think I know a lot of people say I definitely have started to make like collections of photos from the trips I went on, because I want to make like videos or collages just to kind of eventually have those. So if I as I progress through life, I can put them around my house. I can tell my children or my friends about them, and everyone has their own experience, and some people think, oh, a lot of people travel to China. Well, and that's true, or a lot of people travel everywhere, but they each have their own unique story that is worth telling.
It's like a movie, yes. Everybody has their own story. Exactly.
Well, Andy, we're about ready to run out of time for today, but I really appreciate you joining the podcast today, and it's great to see and talk with you again. And it
was my pleasure joining, and thank you for inviting me.
Of course, I just think that people who have these experiences, they need to share them, because a lot of people, they may think about doing this, they may think about traveling, they may think about learning a language, whatever, but unless they get the information they need to actually go about doing it, it's a barrier. So that's my hope with our podcast, and with just talking to people like you, that we can share these experiences and motivate people to explore beyond what they know, and to to not necessarily reinvent themselves, but to grow as a person and to incorporate new ideas and aspects to make them better.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Andy, it's been a pleasure again, and we'll definitely see you again on another podcast, because we'll be talking more about China and more about Argentina, which I'm excited to hear about, and we have some good topics that we're going to share with that. So until next time. Yep. So until next time, this has been another episode of International Immersion, and please leave any likes, comments, or suggestions on what you want us to talk about next, and we'll see you on the next episode. That's all for now.